Would you like to have the education, the tools, and the support to create your plan to rock retirement? If so, come join me Tuesday, November 16th at 7 p.m. Central, where I'm going to host a Rock Retirement Club open house. And we're going to show you the clubhouse and the master class, as well as answer your questions. You can learn more and register at livewithroger.com. Do you want to have the confidence to truly rock retirement? Well, I'm going to show you how on the Retirement Answer Man Show. Well, hey there. Welcome to the show. My name is Roger Whitney. I am your guide to rocking retirement. I'm excited you're here. We're finishing up the first month of twice a week episodes. And we've had some hiccups. I noticed on some of the YouTube versions, because we are posting one episode a week as a video show on our YouTube channel, Retirement Answer Man. You can find that at youtube.com/Retirement Answer Man. I've noticed that the platform I'm using, like this month to chat with Andy, I'm having some audio issues where sometimes it may be not grabbing the right microphone, or I don't know. It's frustrating, but that's part of what happens when you're trying new things. You find the bugs and you fix them. So thank you so much for your patience. And if you want to see what we look like or chat with us there, you can go to the YouTube channel. That's fun. Today, what we're going to do is answer listener questions, but I'll give you some insight of where we're going in November. So November is going to be a grab bag. It's going to be like the junk drawer of the Retirement Answer Man show. So we're not going to have one unifying theme like we have this month with Andy on retirement tax management. We're going to have some special guests. We're going to answer a lot of your listener questions and have some thoughts and wisdom to help you on your journey. I guess none of it's junk. Junk drawer might be a bad name for it, but you get the idea. Now, if you are enjoying the show and you want to get links to items that we mention, every Saturday morning we send out an email summary with links to resources that we talk about. And you can get that at rogerwhitney.com. Go all the way to the bottom, just enter your name and your email address, and you'll get a summary of the show. And the nice thing about that is that if you hit reply, that email comes right to me. And most of the time when I'm not crazy busy or traveling, I reply back so we can have some interaction. So we'd love you to be part of the family there. But today what we have are listener questions. So let's just get right into that. All right. Our first question comes from Hazel. She said, "Thanks for all you do. I enjoy the podcast. It's not boring." Thank goodness, Hazel. We'll try to keep it that way. Hazel says she's 51 and getting divorced, short-term marriage. She has a condo bought before the marriage. It's worth like $370,000, she says, and she has a mortgage on it. She says she has a pension available to her once she turns 55, where she can take as a pension payment or a lump sum of $200,000, but she loves her work. And she says now that it's remote, her dogs love it too. And I can so relate to that, Hazel. And you'll notice this on the YouTube version of the show. Sherlock just walks around. I think last week on the audio version, he was laying behind me, just snoring away. I don't think anybody heard it, but it sure was something I heard. I love being able to just hang out with Sherlock all day. Hazel says her 401k has about $45,000 into it. And she doesn't even want to add what she might get in a divorce. Her soon-to-be ex has a pension, has a 401k, plus other things she's not aware of. They kept their lives pretty separate from a financial standpoint. And what she wants to know is she's planning on working for a long time, but being 51, if she's going to work to say age 65 or so, what should she be doing now? Well, Hazel, I'm sorry for the ending of your marriage and then that didn't work out. Here are some thoughts. Number one is in navigating the divorce, and you say short term, I don't know quite what that means. What I would suggest that you do is make sure that you have an advocate that has your interests best at heart or at center focus. Because generally, and this is just my experience, I've never been divorced, but I've definitely worked through very clean divorces and very messy ones through my work directly with clients. And my observation has been that, especially if it's fairly amicable, people want to play nice. And you're dealing around a lot of really touchy things, money and whose is what and who gets the dogs and all those type of things. And a lot of times people want to play nice, which is admirable. And you want to be nice, but being nice doesn't mean not getting what's yours, if that phrase sounds strong, but not looking out for your own interests as well. And I personally have a hard time with this just in how I operate, because I tend to like to play nice. So I think it's really important that you have an attorney or somebody representing you that can look out for your self-interest and potentially protect you from yourself in terms of playing too nice. Because I've seen instances where one party essentially rolled over and put themselves in a much worse position than they should have been in by playing nice, just giving up too much of the negotiation of the money stuff just to make it all go away. So my first suggestion to you is don't do that. You worked hard for everything that you have. The rules are set for what you're due in a divorce. There's a framework for that. Let that framework work and let somebody be your advocate so you don't have to be the bad guy. Now, this doesn't mean you have to go after every little penny or whatever, but you want to make sure that you get what you're due. So that's just my words of wisdom based on my experience. Now, practically, I would be very careful about your pension. So let's say you leave work after 55 and you have this pension option. You're going to have the option of either turning on lifetime payments or letting those lifetime payments accrue and turning them on at some future date as well, or getting this lump sum, this $200,000 that you mentioned. I would be very careful when you get close to that decision. Given the basic financials that you shared with me, that pension, meaning the lifetime payments for yourself, may be very important to your financial security. And once you decide to take the lump sum and say roll that to an IRA, you can't undo that. Sure, you can go buy an annuity stream of income to try to create a pension, but it's likely not going to be as attractive as the payment stream that the pension offers you. So given that you have a modest sum in your 401k, and I don't know what you have elsewhere, assuming that's it, your Social Security and your pension stream may be the keystones to your retirement. And if you take that $200,000, now you're going to have a lot more responsibility of making it grow. It may be at risk. You may lose it, and you might not be able to replicate that income stream. So be really careful with that one, okay? I would suggest that you save in your 401k. One, get through this divorce. Get through this. Make sure that you come out in an equitable way, and then reset yourself on where you want to go from here. That's job number one right now. From there, I would, once you're through that, continue to save in your 401k and try to build up some after-tax assets. And then we have a worksheet, actually. If you go to doretirementright.com, you'll have to put in your email, but you'll get a worksheet of here are the things you need to think about if you're within 5 years of retirement. Many of those things, Hazel, are going to apply to you. So I think that would be something to check out. And best of luck to you. Now, Mike has a question on Social Security. Roger, love the podcast. My question's on Social Security. I am 51. My wife is 48. Together, we have about, $250,000 in a 401k and Roth accounts. We're contributing 15% of our income. I'm working through my retirement plan. I'm planning on Social Security. He says, I understand that my wife will receive up to 50% of my Social Security. And I also understand that that 50% is if I wait until for retirement. If I decided to take my Social Security at age 62, will my wife have to wait until she is 62 to receive a percentage of my Social Security? I'm not clear on the timing of eligibility of benefits when it comes to the spousal benefit. We want to retire together. We plan to move out of the snowy tundra of Wisconsin. Thank you so much for your expertise. So, Mike, my first thought is, dude, you're 51 years old. She's 48. So we can't dial this in really at all because the decision is very green, not ready to be picked on the tree. But how do spousal benefits work? So we'll assume the spouse doesn't have a benefit of her own in this case. So a spousal can collect up to 1/2 of the benefit of the other spouse. But in order to collect the spousal benefit, the spouse is going to have to be at least age 62. And it would be a reduced benefit. So if we think about this, if you retire at 62 and you decide to take your reduced benefit, she's going to be 59. So she would not be able to get any portion as a spousal benefit of your Social Security until she reaches age 62. So that's important to understand. So that might help you decide to wait on achieving it. And even if you wait until age 65 or your full retirement age or somewhere in between, and she does reach the age of 62, she's going to have a reduced benefit. And so my suggestion would be is you go to the spousal Social Security calculator, where you can enter the spouse's age when they're considering receiving the benefit, and it will tell you the percentage of the spouse's benefit, your benefit, that she would receive at various ages. So that's going to be the best place for you to go if you're trying to dial this in. And I would argue in your plan, my default plan, let me just say that, my default is you take it at full retirement age. I would use that to create your plan of record. And then you can play about what if scenarios of do I take it at age 62 or 65, etc. But my recommendation would be in whatever planning you're using, just have the default age be your full retirement age and then create what if scenarios. Because I think Social Security as a benefit in planning is really underappreciated. We're worried about it being there. We're not wanting to tap our assets. But this is, and I think in my conversation with Wade Pfau on this claiming decision, by the way, which is currently on the YouTube channel, you'll see the discussion Wade and I had and where we talked about this very subject. We're going to have it as a podcast version next month. It might be the first or second episode, so in a week or so. That was just because I was testing something. But that I think maybe you should listen to that because we discuss how valuable this benefit really is. Before we get to Michelle, do you have a question for the show? We're going to be doing a lot of answering questions, and we're going to try to go a little deeper in our answers to help you on your journey. So if you have a question for the show, or you just want to send me a note, you want to say, yo, Roger, how you doing? Happy fall. Or, hey, you used that word wrong. Let me explain why. I'm cool with that. You can go to rogerwhitney.com/ask Roger. That's the best way where you can send me an email, or you can actually leave an audio question, which we'll have some of those next week. So rogerwhitney.com/ask Roger. Now, Michelle on Feeling Dumb. Michelle says, Roger, thank you for your attention to women's finances this month. This is a few months old because we did that a few months ago with Tanya, including the rest of us all the time. Definitely. I've learned so much. Well, that's great. And Michelle gives a quick note to Tanya that she lived in St. Paul for a number of years and that she loved Duluth in the summertime, which I think is always the qualifier about loving Duluth, which is a great city. And I've been there in the winter. It's not too bad. Regarding challenges for widows or anyone just learning when taking over the accounts. Michelle says, I made friends with my Vanguard guy. I got a CFP from the list of fiduciary members and have my CPA running tax scenarios. After 2 years, I still feel dumb. I still don't want to be a pest. And I still think I should already know this stuff. Women get over it. And I'm using Michelle's words. It's their job to help you out. Your CFP, your CPA, your Vanguard guy, or whomever. It's their job to do it. Don't think that you have to be able to do it. And Michelle says, many men don't know either, but fake it or say they do. And she says, ask Roger. I think that's wise advice. We don't have to be experts in all of this stuff. And I'll be honest with you, personally, when I talk to Wade Pfau, or I talk to Andy Panko, taxes anyway, I feel dumb compared to them because they just can rattle this stuff off. And so we all struggle with that. It actually takes strength, like with me. I am blessed that there is a Wade Pfau in this world to be so technical from an academic standpoint. He helps make me better. I am blessed to have Andy Panko in my life to know how to be actionable on managing taxes in retirement. They make me better. I'm not supposed to be them. And so I think that's what you're saying, Michelle, right? Don't worry about it. You're not supposed to be the CFP or the CPA. And it's their job to help you understand enough to make better decisions. And I think that's a great perspective on it, Michelle, and I appreciate it. Now, Rhonda, this is another one that came in while we're doing the series on women in retirement. And we'll do another series on women in retirement. But to Michelle's point, we'll work on making sure that we just don't always assume it's the man. So every show is about everybody in retirement. And we've addressed that before. So Rhonda, she has some issues on some things that she's encountered. So Rhonda says, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your podcast and the information you've given over the past several years. It's helped me considerably in lifelong decision-making, which is awesome. And she wanted to contribute some things that she learned recently. Due to the fact that your episodes have been centered on women this month, which was a few months ago, I found out some things that I had no idea of and can't say that I agree with. And this is what she wanted to share. First, my entire career has been in the field of teaching, and I decided to retire this year. In filing out the forms to receive my pension, what I didn't know, and no one ever told me beforehand, is that if you're married, at least in my state, and you choose to take the maximum monthly benefit, which would be life only. So if you take your pension benefit, the largest one typically is if for your life only, when you die, your spouse gets nothing. My husband, in this case, has to sign a form and have it notarized as part of the application on our decision to take my life only benefit. And Rhonda, I think it sounds like she got a little irked by that. She says, sorry, but my career, why should I have to have what seems like my husband's permission to have the pension I chose and worked for? And Rhonda found that odd. And as a sidebar, Rhonda says, my husband is not one in finances. He doesn't even like to discuss it much. And then Rhonda had a second issue related to this, it sounds like. She said, this past week, I met with my financial advisor. And while my advisor and I thought through what we're going to do in terms of changing the beneficiaries on a couple of my accounts, I found out that because I'm married, I have to have my husband's signature and have it notarized in order to change the beneficiary on my accounts if it excluded a portion of it from him. And she said, hey, I created these accounts. I'm the one that put money into it. And she said, don't get me wrong. These were decisions that we decided upon together. I just thought I could do them. Just thought I'd pass it along. And I wonder how many more surprises I will find out. And she says it's still a man's world. So that's an interesting observation on this, Rhonda. So what she's referring to, and I do believe this is on a state-by-state basis, that if you have a pension and you're married, if you choose something that excludes benefits to your spouse, let's say a pension, you choose the life only, which means if you pass, there's nothing left over for the surviving spouse, then they have to approve that. Or if you have an IRA, typically IRAs where, if I'm, take me, the beneficiary in my IRA is my wife, Shauna. If I pass, the money goes to Shauna. If I wanted to change those beneficiaries and say, I don't want it all to go to Shauna, I want it to go to Shauna, Johnny, and Sally, whoever they are. Or I don't want it to go to Shauna at all, my wife would have to sign off saying, I'm okay with this. It's interesting the lens that you have here, Rhonda, because you're looking at it as a woman and say, wait a second, what do I need my husband's approval for? And the origin of these rules, and I do think they're state by state, actually were the opposite of traditionally, if the man was the major breadwinner and the wife wasn't, it protected the other spouse in the traditional sense, the wife, from not getting those benefits. So, if your name wasn't Rhonda and it was George would be saying, well, what do my wife need these benefits for? I earned all this money. It's interesting just from a framing standpoint. But I think the key here is in a lot of states, we have collective property, and the things that you earn, your income that you earn during your career while you're married is essentially both of yours because you are a unit, at least legally. And so if you're going to, say, give up part of that benefit and have one person has, say, life only on the pension and nothing for the survivor, well, the survivor has a stake in that pension benefit, even though you technically earned it from your employment, it was going to the household. So these are things in place for both the husband, in this case, or the wife, so that they are taken care of because it's essentially a joint asset. even though you're the one earning it. So I get the perspective. It's just interesting. It's all through the lens, but those are the reasons the rules are there. And I don't know if that's so much it's a man's world in that it's joint property, and these are the rules to help protect both parts of that union. So they're not left with nothing because one spouse decided to give it all away to somebody else. But I appreciate your perspective. And these kinds of things can be annoying. I know, Rhonda, when you work really hard and you earn money, it's annoying when people say, hey, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't do that? It's my money. Sort of like with an HOA, right? When we put up our shed last year, we had a different shed that we wanted, and it didn't fall within the HOA guidelines. And my first reaction was, wait a second, this is our land. I can do whatever I want with my land. Who are you to tell me? Well, I can't, right? Because when I signed up to live in this neighborhood, I agreed to the HOA, and I have to honor that it is my land, but I am living by the broader rules. And it was annoying. So we changed the shed. Worked out fine. But so I get that, Rhonda. I totally get that perspective. So before we go to set our smart sprint, let's go check in with Kevin Lyles, the head of retirement at the Rock Retirement Club. So now I want to bring on Mr. Kevin Lyles, head of education in the Rock Retirement Club for Coach's Corner. It's the end of the month.
Hi, Roger.
Kevin, what's going on, buddy?
You know, I been listening to you and Andy Panko all month and taking a lot of notes. And the topic I want to talk about today is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. It really applies to tax planning, which you guys have been talking about, but it also applies to many areas of retirement life.
Well, can we define perfect before we get started? What do we mean when we say perfect?
Well, when we talk about it in the tax planning context, I know some folks who in early December every year, they're trying to get their final yearly income to the dollar. You know, they get their dividend statements in and they're trying to get right to the very top of that next tax bracket to the penny. That's the perfect, I think, when you're doing tax planning.
Well, I guess the argument against that would be if you don't want to try to get more detailed, you're not being, well, if you don't want to try to get more specific and dial it in, it's a little lazy not to do that, isn't it?
Well, I think you have to be realistic about what's possible. For example, if someone's trying to decide whether to do Roth conversions and how much they want to convert, think about all the assumptions you need to make. And frankly, a lot of them are just guesses. You need to guess what the tax rates and tax rules are going to be in the future. You're going to have to know how much taxable income you're going to have, not only this year, but 10 years into the future. You need to guess what the rates of return you're going to earn on your investments are and how much you're going to spend in the future, which I guess implicitly means you're making a guess as to whether you and your spouse are going to be alive in the future. And so all of these assumptions or guesses, I think, make people think they can get precise when they really can't, because you can't know some of these things. So it's easy to get analysis paralysis and just do nothing. And I think a lot of people do that. They just get stuck, and because they can't get it to the dollar, they don't do anything. And that's what letting the perfect be the enemy of the good is really about. You need to just get the direction right and do something and then move ahead. And I think that applies not just to tax planning, but to so many other areas of retirement.
Well, I think it applies to, like, we just finished the master class, right, in the club, in the Rock Retirement Club. So we have a complete master class to walk you through step by step to figure out do I have enough? How much can I spend? When can I retire? I was doing some post-op on having it complete. And it took about a year and a half. And I thought it would take a lot, not near as long. And all I see are the imperfections of things I need to go correct. If I had tried to make it perfect rather than just make it, it wouldn't be done in my lifetime.
You'd still be back on the second module, wouldn't you?
Right. And it's hard because you get all the, well, what about this? Fix that. And, this doesn't make sense. And there isn't a lot of that. It's more conceptual, but that's a sort of an example. You won't start. You won't do anything.
That's right. And again, that's another perfect example of an area where, because of all the assumptions and guesses, you can't get it right. You can't get it perfect. You can't, quote, optimize it. We get a lot of questions from members, as you know. I want to optimize this. And no, you just want to get it going in the right direction. And as I say, it applies to other things. I know a friend who always wants to start these really strict diets. And as soon as he messes up, the diet's over. And I'm like, well, no, generally try to eat good foods. Having a cheat day or a cheat meal here every now and then is fine. Same thing for exercise. Try to exercise most days. But if on one particular day you don't feel up to it, either cut back or take that day off. That's fine. Good is good enough.
This is a really good point. And this relates to the journey that I've been on. I'm about 5 weeks into no alcohol and exercising every day, generally avoiding sugar and flour. That said, now I haven't had any alcohol, but that said, the other day when my wife and I were done golfing, I had a gourmet hamburger with a bun and caramelized onions.
Good for you.
And I didn't feel guilty about it because you're right. If you set up to be so specific, your first little I just messed it up, so forget about it.
You know, a lot of retirees, especially at the beginning of retirement, they're trying to find that perfect purpose, right? What's my new purpose in life going to be? And they really struggle with the decision, where I think it's better if you just pick a few things that you enjoy doing, that you feel like you can make a difference doing, and try them out. And if it feels right, keep doing them. If it doesn't feel right, try some other things. It's trying to find the perfect purpose that I think makes people flail around.
So when I hear this message, and I don't know, who you are listening to it, my thought is, if you're one that you're researching how to create this retirement and it's so intimidating because it gets so technical, sort of what I'm hearing, Kevin, is for you, don't worry about it. You don't have to be that precise, right? You don't have to be that geeky.
Exactly. Get the big things right. Let the small things take care of themselves. You know, we've had guests in the club talking to us about that tax management. And I think they said you can add 1 to 1.5% to your returns by proper tax management. Well, that's nice. And I'm not saying it's not worth your time to try to get that 0.5 to 1.5%. But if you're worrying about it, or if that's keeping you from acting at all, then you're just letting the perfect be the enemy of the good.
And so for the person that is maybe an engineer, someone that's really technical, we have a lot of people that listen to the show that are very into this. What's the message to them when they are very precise and they enjoy that hunt?
That's fine. Just don't spread it to all the rest of us. And I'm serious about that. There are people, you're right, who live in the numbers and who want the perfection down to the 4th decimal point. And if that's really who you are and what you want to do, go for it. But for the rest of us, don't worry about it. You know, you hear about that person who's getting it out to the 4th decimal point and you just feel like you're lost. You can't do that. Don't worry about that. That's the message.
Yeah, I think for the people that are really into the numbers I think the danger is, one, you may squeeze out that extra alpha in tax management that, Vanguard study talks about, or whatever study you want to quote. You may squeeze a little bit more of that out, but the danger, I think, is that you can miss the forest for the trees. You get so focused on, say, the Roth conversion calculation that you forget to actually enjoy your life and to enjoy the bigger things, right?
Exactly. I saw a member the other day who said, I'm waiting for the stock market to drop before I do any Roth conversions. Well, I guess they've been waiting for about 6 years because the market's been going straight up. If you wait, you're going to do yourself more harm. And it's true with so much of retirement. Don't wait. Go about what you want to accomplish now and don't try to be perfect.
This mantra definitely helps me in my golf game as I've worked to improve, because it's easy to get mad at yourself for every shank you have when, hey, I'm out here on a beautiful day enjoying it. Great perspective, Kevin. If you want to learn more about the Rock Retirement Club, where we have these conversations, both very technical and very big picture, you can check that out at rockretirementclub.com.
I'll see you at the rodeo roundup, Roger.
All right. Now that we know that perfect is not needed, let's go set a smart sprint.
On your marks, get set.
All right. It's the end of October. We're going to be going into a lot of your questions. So I hope you've enjoyed this change in the show, and we'll continue to iterate to make it better, as we always do. And I hope you have a wonderful and safe Halloween. Be well, okay? Hey, it's time for that all-important disclaimer. We so appreciate you listening to the show and love your questions and love the teaching that we're able to provide here. And actually, it helps us too. But remember, you're not our clients.
Not love it if you took advice from us on the show.
We would not love it if you took advice from us on the show. Realize this is helpful in education. Talk to your legal advisor, your tax advisor, or your financial advisor before you make any decisions.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of Retirement Answer Man. Be sure to visit rogerwhitney.com/answers to access the Retirement Answer Library with over 30 checklists to help you make the most of the only life you have. Remember, you have more power than you realize to create an amazing life starting today with Retirement Answer Man. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Have a wonderful day.